Champion Europe Rare has become the #1 division for Sorare scouts and managers all over the world who are eyeing up the cash prize pot, as well as thinking about the opportunity to win the most illustrious cards in the game. But so many Sorare scouts and managers all over the world are still struggling, still unclear, still unsure, still not 100% certain on what is the best angle of approach, what's the best tactics, the best strategies to deploy for the savvy Sorare scout or manager that's out there to build the best bang for buck, the best budget strategy to go on and attack the classic champion mode, or even really the in-season one, because it's one and the same at this point. So in the video today, I'm going to be breaking down the key archetypes, the sort of players that we're going to be needing, as well as the top 56 players or so that I've scouted here today that aren't the stars. These aren't the top of the food chain guys, but what we're looking for in this competition, well, you'll see that in the video. At any point, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel. We're pushing for 10,000 subscribers, and we cannot do that without your support, guys. So if you do enjoy this sort of content and you want to see more of it, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button to let me know, and get into the comment section and let me know what is your key strategy, what's your core strategy going into Champ EU Classic mode forevermore, really. And let's just get stuck straight into it. Now, the first thing we've got to establish before we even think about strategy, before we even think about players, is what are the rules of engagement? How are we actually going to achieve success, and what is required to make that happen? Now, we can sit and we can go through all the leaderboards that we normally see in a variety of different divisions on Sorare, but there's a few key factors that are really changing, that really blow out historic data to give us a clean representation of what to expect going forward. The first of the two is it's now going to be multi-entry. So we could look at the leaderboard and theorize about how many of these teams are someone's #1 lineup. Where would Division 1 be? Where would Division 2 be? What sort of score normally gets promotion, relegation, so on and so forth. But with cap modes, All-Star, Under 23, it is so hard, pro divisions as well, which will no longer be here, to really gauge the strength and the veracity of the current Champion Europe Rare competition versus what Champion Europe will become because of the multi-entry rule and the disposal of Champ Pro, All-Star Pro, etc. And the second part of it will be divisions, because if I was to look at the top 10 or the top 5, for example, in Champ Euro Rare on any given game week, there's probably a couple of accounts that will just fly in there on a random game week because a mid-table team in France did well, a relegation team in Spain had a better game, or, you know, whatever these random occurrences happen. And the division makeup and the breakdown of different prize payouts in the different divisions is one of the main kind of things, again, that makes it really hard to levy against, you know, how strong of a team to build, how much depth will be required. Like, not only does it take to win, but what are you winning, and what is your ceiling become down to the players and the players you select and the strategy you deploy. So these things are still very much grey. Now, I did a video on the channel last week or something like that, and it was the top 3 things that every Sorare manager needs to know since the new roadmap came out. If you haven't seen that, I'll link it at the end of this video so you can just watch it straight away. But once you've kind of got your head around all that kind of stuff, and the first thing you're going to be developing in your new strategy or in your maintenance, your housekeeping, is your core club of a collection that you're going to build. Now, Champ Euro is one of these regions, because it's the top 5 leagues in European football. You associate the biggest, the most illustrious clubs in world football, the biggest and best players in those teams, the price tag that comes alongside them. But to play this competition well, and particularly to play it well on a budget, it's not always going to be Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Man City, Liverpool stacks, etc. It's going to be playing between the lines, as it were, looking for the team that's got a good managerial appointment, transferred well in the summer, etc. And sometimes you might need to wait a game or two to discover who your team might actually be. Now, as things stand, I'm recognising the Premier League, La Liga and the Bundesliga as the top 3 leagues within Sorare, because they have their own designated in-season cash reward competition come August. We'll obviously get an early taste of that via the Premier League. But if we were to use, and again, just because of the AI, the UI, I beg your pardon, on Sorare, it's easier for me to show you this with clubs that I've got like a card in or something. But if we use Real Sociedad here as a good example, a team who finished 4th last year, played in the Champions League, were undefeated in the group stage. They're playing, as I record this now, they still got PSG to play in the second leg. But this is a squad, and as you look at the prices here of the rare cards, yes, the starting goalkeeper isn't cheap, but there is a really good squad here of a lot of young players It's a good team that is reported on in terms of predicted 11. Even the cards I own here, you can't see the price for. Zakarian, £28. And Take Kubo, yeah, he's a bit punchy. Obviously star of the team. There's lots of youth internationals here and a couple of guys that either aren't there anymore, like Ali Cho, and maybe one or two others that won't be there for much longer, like Kieran Tierney, maybe Sadiq if we're all lucky, Lenormand, Zubimendi. These guys have been linked to moves in other clubs as well. But point being, this is a rare collection of a squad that, you know, will play in European football, will be in the top half of their division, win more games than they lose, quite obviously. And the name of the game, first of all, with whatever your core strategy is going to be, and even if you are going to play in the classic mode, for Champ Euro, you won't want to neglect this element either of having a core set of players that are at 3, 4, 5% collection bonus on top of the XP that you're going to gain from them. And we'll come to later in the video exactly why that is so important and why that will make the difference, even with a more middling kind of budget team like Sociedad here. With that base of regular starters, guys that can hit decisive actions, key guys that are part of successful defenses, etc., that are, you know, ticking up with their in-season bonus. If you get the collection bonus early enough, you'll be able to get these guys into 10+% in season actually rather quickly. Now, in the absence of divisions and historic, you know, performance data to measure, you know, what is a good score, I think our easy number to draw a bit of a line in the sand against when we're building our team, setting our target, etc., is 400 SO5 points. I think for Champ Euro especially, if you are hitting 400, that's when you can begin to think about winning prizes currently in the rare division. Now, Sorare have mentioned in all their communications around everything that they're kind of looking for 20 to 30% as their sweet spot of how many Sorare players they want to be rewarding, and maybe just the key divisions, but in the majority of divisions, I think is the name of the game. And in the absence of the data we have, I think 400 is a great benchmark for us to measure a team against success and failure before the unknown, as it were. And you guys will be able to tell me if you're watching this after these divisions have came out, if using that as a benchmark would have been useful or not. That'll be really cool to see in the comment sections maybe in the future from now. Because these cards, their objective is to win in-season cards from the classic mode first and foremost. Now, when we're buying them in season, they have the opportunity to go and play in-season competitions and win money, of course. But the likelihood of people, anyone really wholesale outing in-season collections to bring new ones in, year out, is going to be a minimum. Most people, if not everyone, is going to at least be keeping and compounding into their club, their gallery, their squad, legacy players as time goes on that have paid for themselves, that have served their time, you know, whatever it might be. So whether you are just thinking, I'm new season only, you will eventually end up on this path also. So it's great they can win money when you pick them up, but ultimately the worst case scenario is that is going to be their job for you and your club forevermore if they become relatively worthless when they're out of season, because we could only play one classic card in the in-season rare competition, which really limits the lifetime utility of a middling team player, as it were. So the majority of guys you will be picking up that aren't the upper echelon stars of any teams, or even in Champ Euro, the best teams in world football, is going to be their primary function ultimately. The last thing we need to just put on the table here before we get into the meat and the bones of it is this is also now multi-entry. So our standards for what our first and our second or our third team need to be lifted up. You shouldn't be thinking about, oh, we're going to try and aim for 400 on team 1, but see team number 2, if it hits 320, that should be okay as well. And team 3, hey, as long as no one DNPs, we'll be fine. That's not going to be the way it works. You're going to want all 3 entries equally as capable as one another, and maybe you're going to cover some different bases on some outcomes of predicted 11s or the way the matches will unfold, etc. But that is going to be the mentality of the players that win cards, that win money, etc. is having 3 teams that are equally as capable as one another, which is my biggest fear of the classic mode, is going against an untold number of strong teams in one no-holds-barred sort of division. So we are going to need to have that benchmark, 400, it might even be 420, who knows. But let's start with 400, and yeah, we're going to build one team first, but we have to have it with the view of, when we've got 3 teams, the players we've got are all kind of interchangeable on maybe the strength of the match, rather than, you know, like the player, oh, we need to play this guy in the first team because the other guy's suspended, and oh, the team's going to be crap now because this second team player has got into the first team. That's not the way your squad, you want it to work optimally. Now, maybe if you've got like a tertiary or a secondary kind of strategy you're running, like for me, for example, like I'm not playing with Challenger other than that New York City collection I've got going. So like that kind of thing, different story. Now, the number 1 place we have to start is in goals. Now, every team needs a solid goalkeeper, and in Champ Euro, it is very simple, like it is already. No clean sheet, no party, plain and simple. If you don't get a clean sheet out of your goalkeeper on some sort of regular basis, Other decisives are fantastic as well when they do come in, by the way, but you can't plan or forecast for them. Then your team isn't going to win anything. If your guy is in a bottom of the table team and they're going to concede every week, he didn't concede 3, so he brought in 42 points. That's never going to get you far or anywhere. And the number one player that screams out the archetype of this guy as a goalkeeper will get clean sheets because he is a fantastic goalkeeper. He's also very fortunate right now that he plays in an exceptional defence, which is way better than the situation he used to be in. But he's in real life an absolute hero of a goalkeeper. He can save a penalty. He's, an absolute wonder in between the sticks, as it were. And it's the one that only Jan Sommer. Now, he is not cheap necessarily, but he's certainly not a star of European football when people are, thinking about the best teams and the best players. Yes, his scores are going to come up in a lot of Sorare graphs at the moment because he is doing exceptionally well. But as we can see here, the majority of the scores are hovering between 62, 67 points. That kind of range for a normal clean sheet. And if it's a busy day at the office, Inter Milan are playing Lazio or a team like that, then yeah, maybe it's going to be an 82 point, an 83 point or something like that. And all these other games below that line, really, this team, you can't expect it to be delivering anything unless your outfielders all absolutely rip their face off. In terms of scoring really, really high. And in which case, the games where he does bring in a 51, a 53, they could be somewhat serviceable. One of the number one budget kind of goalkeepers it does come into, especially when you look at the big 3 leagues, is Unai Simon at Athletic Club, because he does get a lot of clean sheets himself. But one of the things that does suppress his price is the AA that he picks up. He's not a high-scoring goalkeeper, as it were. It does take something special for his score to get into the 70s, never mind anything else. They are there. He does play for Spain as well, which does keep his price from going too low. But he is relatively reliable for a 64, 61, and 66. Now, if we're building a team that is going to be aiming to get to 400 points, we really need a goalkeeper that can break 70 points. And Unai Simon, on the face of it, maybe isn't that guy. Unless, I really don't like this temporary UI thing that Sorare have done. But Kositani, for me, is a 12% multiplier card. He's top percent on his level, 2% on collection. He only brought in 66 points here, but with that extra 12%, it gets him up to 74. That's only with 2% on collection bonus. We don't need to go and build an entire Athletic Club, collection or whatever. We don't even need to build a defensive stack. You could just go and get like maybe a striker or a midfielder that works for you that's cheap enough or whatever. But a guy that can regularly get those types of scores, and even the better ones when they do come in, they'll be amplified in kind and bring him into that 80 range that he isn't really doing himself on the pitch. I also put Magic Mike Mignan in that hero category alongside Jan Sommer. But in this list, I wanted to try and put some more budget options in, guys that aren't, and I say with Sommer and Mignan, I don't think they are headliners necessarily, but guys that are maybe a wee bit cheaper than them because they're certainly not in the affordable price range. But guys that are of a similar ilk to your Mignans, your Sommers, your Unai Simons, but maybe they play at a lesser team. Their frequency of success is less. Maybe they don't play for their national team. There's some things like that will let their price fall down ever so much, but you still need the same capabilities. And, it wouldn't be a video on this channel without Mark Flecken, but Lucas Radecki, Kevin Trapp, Bernd Leno, these are all guys that have the same tendencies, the same hallmarks as these other goalkeepers that we've looked at that are like quadruple the price. But the difference between them all is volume, frequency of scores. And the key thing for having these kind of archetypes on screen for you guys in this little list here, for me, is like, don't get the you will not work with the bottom of the table teams. And this goalkeeper should be on top of that core collection that we spoke about earlier in the video. So it has to be someone that is a bit of a hero, maybe a guy that plays a bit more regularly than the local keeper that you've got, the native keeper that you've got in your collection. And I say someone that is maybe capable of double decisive or capable of an insane amount of AA. Nailed on number 1, no jeopardy from the number 2. There could be lots of different things going on there, because if you've got a collection, there's only one goalkeeper that will be exposed to the benefits of that. And so you'll need to cover more than one base if you're not going multi-season on the same guy. Now, I don't have a huge appetite for defenders on Sorare, as many of you will know, but in a competition like this where we're going to need to score an insane amount of points, we need defenders that can peak really hard. And a big reason that I don't have a huge appetite for defenders is because I find most of the players that get me the most excited to potentially get really high on the leaderboard are fullbacks who are a bit more up and down and could actually kill a lineup. The poster child, the top of the food chain at the moment, of course, is Trent Alexander-Arnold, but there's many other fullbacks that are in Champion Euro that can hit as hard, but it is a real kind of Russian roulette situation over what ones you're picking. So what I've got here is a little stable of them that across 3 teams could easily be rotated I say easily in a, you know when these guys are playing or not. It's not going to be a shock to you for the most part. You'll be able to pick 3 of them out. You guys can do it. I believe in you. Kieran Trippier didn't move to Bayern Munich in January, and it feels like he's in it for the long haul for this Newcastle project, riding the waves, as it were. And Trippier, of course, can score fantastically well. He's 100 capable, and that is a huge dynamic for the outfielders we've got in this lineup. Now, he does, have the potential to kill a team, of course, as well. And at 33, he's not got much of his career. Newcastle, whatever, he's 33. You know what I'm saying. Theo Hernandez has been one of my favourite champion Euro defenders even before I was on Sorare. Such an attacking left back. He's like Gareth Bale, French reincarnated in a lot of different ways. Not great defensively, always keen to go forward and always get stuck in amongst it. And the scores that this guy can deliver, again, are division winning capable. He's just relentlessly attacking, all out, guns blazing, no matter what. And again, the fullback jeopardy is there, but I do think the security with centre-backs in the new world is not going to be all it's cracked up to be if the centre-backs aren't capable of touching the 80s, if they're with a decisive, can they get to 78, 85, these types of scores? Because fullbacks that can drop 80s for fun, bring in 100s more than once a season, are going to make a big difference. And one of the things I love about fullbacks on Sorare, because they are so PK and trophy, is that you can get really good ones when they're in a bit of a funny spell or not a perfect patch, a form on the real cheap. And when I think about that, the number one guy that comes to my mind is João Cancelo at Barcelona on loan from Man City. It feels like Barca are begging and Man City are going to do the deal to make it happen. His price is where it is at the moment. And again, multiply capable of 100 points per season, no two ways about it. And if he does get a permanent deal to Barca, then I don't think his scores really get worse, do they? I can't talk about peaky fullbacks and not drop in one of my FC Barcelona Hall of Famers, Achraf Hakimi, who again, Morocco international, one of the main guys there. PSG always go deep in the Champions League, beat most teams. Who knows how long he'll be at PSG for? Very, very wishy-washy, but again, got the points to bring home the bacon. And in these videos, I always like featuring some guys that are maybe in a bit of a suppressed situation, but are absolutely fantastic when they're good to go. And again, at the moment, when I'm thinking about peaky defenders, guys that can do something a bit different, maybe they take penalties, maybe they're on set pieces, is Rami Bensebaini. Now, he made a big move to Dortmund, and a lot of people got excited about it, but unfortunately for the guy, he's not always been fit and available. But at Borussia Dortmund, he's already showing he can deliver the big scores that maybe somebody like Schlotterbeck gets the price tag for at the moment. Formerly of Borussia Dortmund, now at Bayern Munich, Rafi Guerreiro is in a very similar position. He's obviously just signed a big money contract at Bayern Munich that's on until 2026. But this guy has been an absolute killer in the Bundesliga. Bayern are obviously down shit's creek without a paddle at the moment. But with Alphonso Davies almost certainly moving on, how does Rafi Guerreiro not become the Bayern Munich left back? And again, a guy that is capable of 88 plus, 100 capable, multiple times a season. His rare price at the moment, he is a guy that can help you compete. And again, a bit of a homer, a guy that I'm a big fan of and will always, when it comes to budget and thinking left field about guys that can maybe bring in that 70 plus score for you from defence. It's maybe not in your collection, but, isn't maybe a big weight to carry in your gallery. And if you pick the right match and whatever you can go for, is big Benji Hendricks here on an L15 of 51. Leipzig haven't had a great year, but I'm a big fan of this guy because he is just a class footballer, and you can see that in the good games where he scores well. He takes up great positions, he makes great plays off his teammates, and yeah, maybe the last 3 months he's not been that peaky. But over the course of a season, to get over 75, let's say 5 times there, let's say he finishes with just half a dozen with 6, at his price point, I think that's fantastic. Now, in midfield, for me, the archetypes of what I'm looking at the moment when it comes to rare classic, bolstering the main home collection, or the native collection that we've got on the go, is guys that are proven, guys that have been around the block once or twice. Maybe they're not in a great ideal situation at the moment. Maybe they're just transferred, they're waiting on a move, they're coming back from an injury, whatever. I've not really discounted that stuff and kept them off. I've tried to avoid the absolute stars of world football. Some of these guys are SO5 demons that you've probably heard of before. But the one consistent thing that we need to have in a midfielder that is going to be able to generate over 75 points before we add in collection and XP and all the rest of it, on any basis that we're going to be comfortable with, is they need to be capable of getting their AA in lots of different places. Now, we do have some absolute poster childs of the set-piece demon, which is James Ward-Prowse. And James Ward-Prowse is a fantastic SO5 player, pretty well priced at the moment for being in one of the top 3 leagues, and again, capable of 70 plus scores, no problem at all. But If this team aren't doing well like you see here, he does really struggle on the AA to even get into 60, which does make him a bit of a, meh player. Does have the peaks there still, of course, but, you're maybe looking at some of these weeks, and if you've got other players going off, they can maybe hold you back. Now, James Ward-Prowse does make the list, as well as guys like Pascal Gross, Danny Parejo, guys that are just renowned set-piece takers. But ideally, we've got guys that can go box to box as well. Maybe get double-double. Double-double is one of the first lines in the sand that I look at for a midfielder, even a creative midfielder like Bernardo Silva. Can they, because Jules is a part of this, can they just win 2 duels and maybe get their way into 2 interceptions or 2 tackles through the game and get themselves those extra bonus points that will make the difference on the one decisive that they're likely to get in a good match? And again, some of these guys are old favourites that aren't maybe covered in glory at the moment, but I think their price makes them even more appealing because of their track record and their history. Guys that are set in their ways, they're set piece takers or on long contracts at established clubs, etc. Maybe they're coming back from injury. And one of these other archetypes that comes up is kind of like the newcomer. And Pierre-Lee Malou is one of those guys at the moment. Brest are sitting second at the moment, at point of recording, in Ligue 1 at the moment. And this is a guy that is just broken on the matrix. Like, he just does everything the way you need him to. And these guys do come out of nowhere. So you could get this guy because he's here and whatever, but he's now priced like these scores are. Getting onto these guys earlier, I suppose he's not actually priced terribly, but all the same, with an L5 of 84, he's definitely not at undiscovered price. Same can be said for like a Boraju, because the worst thing that can happen to your classic mode players, especially if they're for Champ Euro Rare, is that they fall down the pecking order. They absolutely come off the radar of Champ Euro. Now, obviously, there's some non-EU things, non-EU circumstances that might force that to happen, but you want guys that are quite safely playing at their level, at the peak of their career. Like I said already, maybe you can check out their contract status, that sort of thing as well, to, just furnish your main team with, because these guys that take set pieces that are capable of getting more than one decisive action, are capable of getting their AA from more than one source, are going to make the difference. And again, whatever your native collection is, it's very unlikely you're going to have enough of them to populate 3 teams worth, which is what, even if the second and third team are going to be, you're building them on a budget and you're trying to get them to be as strong as possible, they need to have the right sort of characters in them. It can't just be play that centre back from your collection and just say to heck with it. It's only team number 3. And when it comes to Champ EU rare forwards, particularly for the classic mode, age is only a number. You want guys that are experienced, you want guys that are designated, well established, well known penalty takers. And again, ideally we're after guys that can get to that elusive 75 plus. And forwards do that and struggle to do that in a variety of different ways. The easiest way to get that is, of course, if they've got set pieces and that kind of thing. But the kind of deeper, the wider forwards, the ones that might be involved in duels and take-ons, 1-2 give and goes with their strike partner, the ones that hit attempted assists, these are the ones that can quite easily get to 10, 15 AA points in most matches where they'll collect their one expected decisive. But some of the players that are around European football at the moment that are established as forwards actually are capable of doing a variety of different things. And again, the difference in price and maybe the thing that keeps some of these guys off the table of being absolutely elite is just the frequency they're able to achieve these higher scores. But again, With has been able to select for 3 teams, and we're building a classic collection of cards that we can cycle in and out to pick fixtures for. Now, Martin Terrier, Florian Thauvin, and Jerry Moreno are all very similar in the sense that they can get some fantastic AA from open play themselves, but they're all capable of taking, a couple of different set pieces for their teams, and they're multi-decisive capable. And some of these guys that are the main guy in the team, the thing that everything flows through, they take the penalties, they take direct free kicks from the edge of the box, and hey, from open play, they're the main guy that's getting shots away or laying the winger off and getting an attempted assist for himself. But they're never going to move to Real Madrid. They're never going to move to Arsenal, Man City, and Liverpool, these kind of places. And because of that, when they are injured or they're out of a little bit of sequence of form, because they do play for a lesser team that doesn't win every week, their prices can become pretty appealing, but don't have them overlooked. Jerry Moreno here is a guy already this season who, he struggled with some injuries, but he has got over 75 over half a dozen times already. Florian Thauvin has had a little bit of a different season, having recently been in Mexico, I think it was. But he's been back in the last game with 32 all around, and there was a lot of interviews coming out about him. So I thought, for the good old times, we can put him in. But Anthony Gordon, for me, is probably the most slept-on Champ Euro classic kind of striker going out there at the moment. Now, I know when we look at his scores, he does have those ones that let you down, similar to the fullbacks. But if your team is getting into it, you're imagining your guys are scoring goals, you're imagining they're getting assists. And if you've got a striker that doesn't get above 70 with their assist, even if they're in a team that's struggling, like Newcastle have at periods of the season. But when Gordon delivers. He gets 76, he gets 80, he gets 68, he gets 80 with one decisive action. And yeah, the frequency maybe isn't quite there, but I'd expect Newcastle in particular to be better next season than this. And Diogo Jota at Liverpool, I think, is wildly slept on as a Champ Euro rare option at the moment, considering the scores he's able to bring in. Again, he doesn't play all the time, doesn't always kill it, but he can, and he does play regularly enough. And again, you can forecast these kind of guys. And they're not Erling Haaland strikers, you know, but you need the guys that can match these guys for scores across all three of your lineups. Remember that. You've got 3 entries to play into this. And really, between all these guys that I've put on the list, some of them a few different shapes and sizes, some of them in fantastic positions like Marcus Thuram, Julian Alvarez, and then some of them are a wee bit of old gold, like Ciro Immobile, Wissam Ben Yedder, Andre Kramaric. And then, you know, guys like Cunha I've put here, as well as Orsolini, kind of on the basis of, like, again, every Champ EU season, somebody kind of rises up and actually shows, no, I'm better than you thought I was coming into this season. It's maybe not a new signing as such, or a wonder kid around the block, but it's a guy just getting his career going and, you know, really leading his team into better results. So these guys are on the list at the moment, but it could be somebody else next year. Domenico Berardi is resoundingly one of the best forwards when fit. Currently got an injury, so could be a nice little injury discount for anyone who wants to wait on him. But I do feel that all these strikers here present a lot of different profiles, price points, but they all share that they've been around the block. You know they're capable of delivering at this level, and they deliver the sort of scores that we need, which is that 75 plus. Now, I think if you assembled this entire list to be a squad, I think you would probably have a fair amount of success, as long as you know, picture teams very cleverly and you played it by the numbers rather than getting attached to individual cards or different teams that were maybe whisking you away to the top of the tables last weekend or whatever. But that's not the point of this list. The point of this list is a starter kit, as it were. You know, the kind of standalone guys that, hey, I need a defender that could just do this for me once in a while that doesn't cost the moon and the earth. Or I need a midfielder that's robust and can get their AA in different places, can still deliver the big scores as well as the strikers, because it's all about the score your team hits. We need to have high level XP. That's only going to come in time. Can we maximize the collection bonus? And then ultimately, age is just a number, guys. Forget about how old some of these guys are, because it's going to be reliability week in, week out across your 3 teams to get you those positions on the leaderboard that you're after. And I think this list is full of guys that do that in a lot of different ways. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one, guys. On screen now is that video I mentioned earlier on, the top 3 things every Sorare manager needs to know after reading the Sorare roadmap. And I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.